Okay, you kids, hi. It's Grandpa, and you know what I've got for you? I've got something for you. You know what I've got for you? Advice. Just what you were hoping for, okay? Now, Grandpa Jacoby, now this is my grandfather, so this would be your mom's great-grandfather and your great-great-grandfather. Okay. So he had a couple of boys. His youngest was a girl. World War II, it's time for them to go off. You know, my Uncle Mike, my father, leave home, go into the service, okay? So he had advice for them. 3 rules. 1, don't get married. 2, don't get arrested. 3, don't get tattooed. You do any one of those 3 things, don't come home. All right, so he was kind of a tough guy. Your great-great-grandpa, okay? Now, I've got some advice for you, and it just so happens it's 3 pieces of advice, but it's completely different, okay? Piece of advice number 1. And this is because you can teach yourself good habits. It's not like, oh, why wasn't I born doing things the way I would like things to be done? Why wasn't I born that way? Well, you can make yourself that way, okay? It's possible to learn to do anything that you decide to learn to do. So, advice number 1, breathe through your nose. There are some times, like if you're exercising heavily and things like that, where you're going to breathe through your mouth, and that's fine. But try to get in the habit of breathing through your nose. Now, the reason for that is breathing through your mouth dries out your mouth and will give you tooth problems, etc., etc. So you want to have nice, strong, healthy teeth, get used to breathing through your nose. There's other stuff too, but suffice it to say that your nose has a built-in filtration system. It's way more healthy to breathe through your nose than it is through your mouth. You breathe through your mouth, whatever you breathe in has got a direct line down to your lungs. You breathe through your nose, well, at least you've got these filters and whatnot in the way. Then it goes to your lungs, okay? So breathe through your nose. Okay. Piece of advice number 2 is, when you stand with your feet parallel to each other. Now, most Americans and other lazy cultures stand like ducks. They stand with 1 foot pointed over here and 1 foot pointed over here. No. You want to go parallel to each other. You want your toes pointing forward. You want your heels pointing backward. Now, believe it or not, if you just test this and just stand in that position with your feet parallel to each other for a little while, you can feel your skeleton, your posture like shifting into what's really the position that it was designed to hold. Your skeleton will hold you erect, and you'll have your shoulders back, chest out. You'll be standing properly. You'll look good because your skeleton is supporting your body in the way in which it was designed to support your body. If you stick your toes out to the sides, like a lot of Americans do, then what you're going to get is your belly's going to hang out, your butt is going to stick out. It's not a pretty picture, all right? So, when you stand, this is the second piece of 3 pieces of advice. So when you stand, you want to stand with your feet parallel to each other. Toes pointing forward. Heels pointing back, okay? Is that clear? You can always email me or ask me questions, all right? Anyway, 3rd piece of advice. And this is actually the most important one, is trust yourself, all right? If you're in a situation and you go, you know, I don't like the looks of this. I don't think this is a good place to be. Fine. Leave. Seriously. Take off. If you're thinking to yourself, you know, this isn't really such a good thing to do, fine. Don't do it. Okay? No matter what. Don't do it. Trust yourself. See, as long as you can get information, absorb information, learn, and make decisions based on what you've learned, you're cool. You're good. Now, you don't want to have opinions like, well, this is how I feel about this. This is how I feel. You don't want to just invent opinions. with no data? Because that is what an ignoramus does. An ignoramus has just opinions. No data, no information, nothing to base it on, just opinions. So that's not what I mean by trust yourself. What I mean by trust yourself is find out what you can, you know what you know, trust what you know, and listen to yourself. If you think it's a bad idea, it's probably a bad idea. Don't do it. If you think it's a good idea, well, it very likely is a good idea. Okay, but that's got to be based on what you know. You've got to find out. You've got to investigate. You have to learn. And once you've really looked into something, trust yourself. You know what you know. Anybody that tells you you don't know what you know, forget that. You know what you know. Okay. Now I'm not saying throw caution to the winds either. You know, listen to mom and dad. Be cautious. Stay safe. But learn, investigate, get the information. Once you have the information, make the best decision you can based on what you know. And that's Grandpa's advice to you. So, to recap, it's 1, breathe through your nose. 2, stand with your feet parallel to each other, okay? 3, trust yourself. You know what you know. And that's what you know. So, that's cool, all right? That's good. That's what you want to do, is you want to trust yourself, all right? All right, this stuff about don't get married, don't get arrested, don't get tattooed. Well, I don't know. For some people, that's not bad advice, but it doesn't happen to be my advice. That's great-great-grandpa Jacoby's advice. And sure enough, Uncle Mike didn't get married or tattooed or arrested. My father didn't get married or tattooed or arrested. I don't know, maybe later, but they didn't while they were out of the house in the service. Everybody came home at the end of the war. All right, and that's all I got. So, all the best. If you would like to hear more about this, if you want to know more about, like, where you came from, what your grandfather was like, on my side, my father's father, and what your grandfather was like on my other side, you know, my mother's father, I'd be happy to tell you all about this. In fact, if you're interested, you should hear about it while you can, okay? Because this sort of stuff, nobody's writing it down, nobody's keeping track, all right? And there were some interesting people, not always the most correct or the or the kindest people ever, but they were interesting people, all right? And they did have something to say, all right? So that's what I had to say, and there you go, okay? Peace!